Why'd you have to make that face?
It's fun to see your face.
Hello everybody. Sorry it's taken so long for me to get another video made. I've been waiting for a charger, or to be more precise, a discharger for the batteries that I have collected so far. First of all, I'm gonna introduce the person who's behind the camera. It's my wife, Megan. I'm not holding a selfie stick. I got both hands, or a tripod or anything. Say hello.
Hello.
All right. So anyway,
Oh, you saw all the laundry. Whoops. It's okay. Anyway, moving along.
Shh.
Quiet, you.
This is my new charger / discharger. It's made by Opus. It's a BT C3100. It will charge, discharge, refresh lithium ion, nickel metal hydride, and nickel cadmium batteries in many different formats, ranging from 3 volts up to 4 volts. But this is what I'll be using primarily to test cells for capacity and for viability for Powerwall. This is just a start. There will probably be more charging and discharging items later on, but this is where I'm going to start out. Just a little overview of how it works. It's got a 12 volt power brick, plugs into the wall. It has 4 slots, a little fan on the top to cool the electronics, LCD display, and 4 buttons on the bottom. We'll go ahead and plug it in, and we'll go over kind of some of the features of what it does. It's got a pretty bright backlight on it. When you first plug it in, it goes into just null mode. If there's no batteries in it, it doesn't read anything. So we'll go ahead and we can go through, and we can't really do anything without cells in it. So we're going to go ahead and just put a cell in the charger, minding polarity, of course. First thing it shows is your battery voltage. You can go through and you can go through your modes right off the bat. If you don't press any buttons right away, after 3 seconds it'll just go right into charging mode at 5 milliamps. So what we're going to be doing with this is we're going to be doing the charge test. So what that's going to do is it's going to charge the battery to full capacity at 4.2 volts, and it will, once it's at 4.2 volts, it'll discharge the battery, but all the way down to 2.8 volts. But will at the same time meter how many milliamp hours it's discharging, so that you can find out what capacity the battery is. What I just did is I changed the mode to charge test, and then changed the current level, or how much it's actually charging or discharging, to 1 amp or 1,000 milliamps. Let me go back here again. So we're going to go again to charge test at 1,000 milliamps. You can change that. If you're only charging one battery, you can actually go all the way up to 2 milliamps. I think it's these outer two, you can do up to 2,000 milliamps, and the 2 inner ones you can only go up to 1,000 milliamps. But so I went ahead and I changed that. See, if you don't touch it, it goes into it goes in and actually starts doing its thing here. So we're gonna do charge test. We're gonna change it to, oh, come on. Me?
Of course.
Yeah.
But you do it on camera.
All right, so charge test, changing the current to 1,000 milliamps. That's 1,000 milliamps max for that slot. When it gets up to a certain point, it's going to slow itself down. So when I hit display, my current voltage is at 4.14. So it's actually lowering the amount of amps right now that it's charging, because it's at such a high voltage compared to its max voltage. So it actually ramps the amps down at the top of its capacity, as to not overcharge the battery. So we'll go ahead and put 3 more cells in here, and we're going to run them all at 1,000 milliamps. And those are all charge test, charge test, charge test. So that's going to automatically kick on here in a second. There we go. Go to display. Those are all at 4.13 volts. And they're going to run. So once these get to 4.2 volts, it'll actually stay at 4.2 volts for a little bit, and then it'll kick back to discharge. I'll come back when that happens.
Okay, go ahead.
So here's my process. I'm actually just following a flow chart. I'm gonna actually post that flow chart right here for y'all, so y'all can see. I might just go ahead and point it out as I go through this video. But this is the flow chart on how to process cells. I have a bunch of cells here. These are all the cells that I have already gone through. These are the ones that I have deemed so far to be good cells without further testing so far. Here is all the cells that I have deemed as bad, whether they may be too low a voltage, or they've been damaged. Like I have a few cells in here that have corrosion on them. So those are just going right into the do not use bin. Some of them just have 0 volts. Some are just super old, and I just don't want to risk using. But all of the ones over here, minus a few of them, all came out of laptop battery packs. I do have a few power tool batteries. These, I have about 8 of these Samsung 20Rs that are from Snap-on power tool battery, but the rest of these are from laptops. So they should be all 3,200 milliamp hours or less. Most are going to be under 3,000 milliamp hours. But so the first step to doing all this is to open up the laptop packs. I will have another video on how to do that. Every single laptop battery is slightly different. Some are going to have anywhere from 4 to 9 cells meaning batteries in each laptop battery. and each one has a circuit board in it and what's called nickel strip. The nickel strip is the part that connects each of the batteries, the little metal strip that connects each of the batteries. So you have to pull it apart, you have to pull the nickel strip off without shorting anything out and blowing anything up, which isn't hard. It's just, you just have to be careful. It's best to wear gloves and use a pair of pliers to do so, because you end up cutting your fingers open and it's not fun. So after you get them open, you're gonna go through and you're going to check the initial voltage on every cell. So I have a digital multimeter here, and I just put it to DC volts, and I went through every one of these cells, good or bad, and I checked the voltage. And what I did is I wrote it down in Sharpie on the cell. That way I know what the initial voltage was on the cell. Now, most people, what I've been told, usually go for cells that are 1 volt or more, which is exactly what I did, except I have a few exceptions. I have like a couple that are just below a volt, so 0.97, 0.98, stuff like that. So I gave a little leeway for it, but once you've identified which ones are above a volt, above 1 volt, you can capacity test them, and that's what I am currently doing. I have tested about 12 or 16 cells already. These are all Panasonic NCR 18650Fs. These all came out of really nice laptop battery packs. I have about 12 or 16 of them in total, and they're all right around 2800 milliamp hours. Originally 2900, but all around 2800 milliamp hours. And then I've tested these 4 Samsung 20Rs, and they are all right around 1900 milliamp hours. So far, out of the 12 or 16 batteries that I've tested, they've all been good and of good capacity. But we have to have some sort of cutoff. So as of right now, I don't have a cutoff as to what my minimum milliamp hours is going to be. It's probably going to be around 1800 to 2000 milliamp hours. So once we've capacity tested all of our batteries, if we have any batteries that are under 2000 milliamp hours, we're going to capacity test them a second time, unless their original capacity was already 2000 or less, which isn't really going to make any sense if we try to redo the capacity again and for a battery that was never above 2000 milliamp hours. Then once we've capacity tested them, we're going to let the cells sit for a week, just sit in a box, and then we're going to go back and we're going to voltage test them again, because our battery charger and discharger has charged them back up to 4.2 volts at the end. So if they've dropped in voltage, then we know that they're a self-discharging cell, meaning we don't want it in our pack because it will reduce the capacity of the pack, cause all kinds of problems. Any batteries that self-discharge or are heat up during charging or discharging are just going to be recycled. Like we have a box to recycle there. So that's the way we're going to test our batteries. It's going to take a while. I'm going to need more equipment, but this is how I'm starting. Good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we're back. these have reached 4.2 volts now. Let me go back to display here. So 3 out of the 4 here have reached where we need to be. And I don't know, can you see that? So these 3 here, the 1, 3, and 4 here have, oh, now all 4. All right, so all 4 are now discharging. We can see here that they got up to 4.2 volts, and now they're discharging at 1 amp. The fan's actually going now because as they discharge, they heat up a little bit. We're gonna let these sit, and hopefully in the next couple hours we will get these are actually like 3,300 milliamp hour cells, so it might take a few hours to discharge them, but we'll see how that works. So yeah, so you can see they're all discharging at 1,000 milliamps.
Oh.
All right, see you in a little bit. We'll figure it out. It's fine. Okay, so we're gonna cut the video for now. I'm gonna let this discharge for the next few hours, and my next video will be the results of these discharging. Really, it's gonna stop. It'll go back and it'll charge them again, and once it's done discharging them, I'll be able to press this display button, and where it says MAH or milliamp hours, it will actually list each cell's capacity in milliamp hours.
Sorry, it's having a hard time focusing for some reason. Okay, well.
I mean, it's just dashes right now, so that.
Yeah, okay.
But that will list how many milliamp hours. I'll just take a photo of this and I'll insert it into the end of this video. So, have a good night, guys.
Okay.
Your mom's got your...
What? What?
Do that one again.
So I don't follow much of what he's talking about because it's just not my wheelhouse, and so
what
he
she's
is
gonna do?
going to
No. What she's gonna do is she's gonna ask me
Okay.
what something is, and I'll answer her question.
Okay. So question 1.
Question 1.
What are what are milliamp hours, and what does that mean? I'm gonna turn it off. I'm gonna flip the camera around.
Yep. All right, so milliamp hours. All right, so we're gonna start first with amp hours because that's the base computation. So amp hours is the capacity of a battery. So the amount of charge in a battery. Let's just think of it this way. Okay, so we have watt hours. Everyone who owns a home and pays an electric bill and looks at their electric bills knows what a kilowatt hour is. Okay, so that's the amount of energy you've used in that period of time. So a kilowatt hour is 1,000 watt hours. A 1 watt hour is if you have an item, let's just say this phone. If I plug this phone in, right, and this phone uses 1 watt of power to charge, and I charge this phone for 1 hour, I have used 1 watt hour of energy. Okay, now that's 120 volts, and watts are volts times amps. So how many amp hours this item uses? So like a charger. I'm gonna step out of frame for just a second. This is the charger for that phone. Okay, when you look at your charger, it shows you voltage use and power usage, or not power usage, but amperage, right? So this outputs or inputs 0.5 amps. So this uses a half of an amp of power at 120 volts. Don't try to zoom in. You're not gonna be able to see
I'm
it.
sorry. Now we know.
This uses half an amp of power. So if I use this for 1 hour, this would use 0.5 amp hour, because it used half of an amp for 1 hour. Okay, so capacity in a battery is the same way. It's an amount of amperage used. Now I could try to figure out what the watt hours are or whatever, but the capacity of this battery is just calculated in amp hours. So we'll just show one of these ones that I've already tested. I've already tested this battery. This battery is at capacity is at 2849 milliamp hours, or 2.8 amp hours. That's how many I could use this. I could use this battery to power something that draws 1 amp for 2.8 hours, or I could use this battery to power something that draws 2.8 amps for 1 hour. Does that make sense?
Sure.